2. Testing 1, 2, 3. You can't hear me? I'm good. Okay. Okay. All right.
ETA?
About 4 minutes.
Okay.
We're just right at 9, and then she just said go as long as you want, and Mark may ask questions.
Okay. I'll keep going until you say clear.
Yep. Yeah. I'll let you know.
God, my shoulder's killing me.
Yeah. Sorry, man.
No, don't be. Fucking hell.
Here I am, annoyed about the.
Can I ask what channel are you guys from?
KREM 2.
Channel 2.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, good evening and welcome to the special edition of KREM 2 News. I'm Mark Hanrahan. We are breaking into programming tonight to bring you continuing coverage of ongoing clashes between Spokane police and anti-ICE demonstrators that have been going on across downtown Spokane for some time tonight. This whole situation began at around 3 in the evening when anti-ICE protesters gathered in front of the ICE facility in downtown Spokane after 2 young Venezuelan men were detained. Former city councilperson Ben Stuckard calling on people to come protest their detainment. We do have some video of what this has resulted in tonight. We know that police are down there in force clashing with protesters. We know that tear gas has been deployed and several people have been arrested, including former city councilman Ben Stuckard. Also new within the last 40 minutes or so, Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown has issued a curfew tonight. That curfew takes effect in just about 30 minutes at 9:30 tonight. It's for the area from Boone and Howard to Division, and that also includes Riverfront Park. That curfew, again, in place tonight from 8:30 until 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. Here is some video of when things kind of heated up down there with police using that tear gas to try to disperse those protesters. They declared that protest an unlawful gathering at some point tonight, and they're calling on the people to clear out of the area. Again, we know that several people have been arrested. We do not have any numbers on those arrests tonight, and we do know that those skirmishes or those clashes between police and protesters, they do continue at this hour. We do have a crew live at the scene who has been down there for some time tonight. That's our KREM 2's Connor McAvoy. He is down there at this hour. And Connor, if you can hear me, can you give me a sense of what you're seeing right now where you're at?
Well, Mark, like you said, this started around 3 p.m. and it has escalated since then. You can see several officers here on scene. For context, I'm at North River Drive and Washington Street. At that cross, you can see several anti-ICE demonstrators here right now, as well as members of the Spokane Police Department, Spokane Sheriff's Office, as well as Spokane SWAT are here on scene. Now, these protesters here are all at this hour protesting the detainment of two men at the Spokane ICE office earlier this afternoon. Now, former City Council member Ben Stuckert is one of those two's guardian. He says that they were detained and were being taken to a facility in Tacoma, as he says the one that he is the guardian for is working to seek asylum. There are several protesters here right now. The group has only gotten bigger since I've arrived here. Like I said, just about 3 o'clock this afternoon. Folks have been out here protesting to let them go. There's been a couple of different incidents where the Spokane Police Department has thrown smoke bombs at the ground, getting people to back away from the ICE office, again, right at the corner of North River and Washington Street. Now, this has been going on, like I said, for several hours, and right now it is only escalated from here. It's starting to die down a little bit, but at this hour, people are still out here, and the Spokane Police Department has declared this an unlawful assembly, and they're letting people know that anybody who does stay out here is at risk of being arrested. We've seen several people be arrested here just in the last few hours or so, including Ben Stuckert, the former Spokane City Council member. Now, again, at this hour, they are still on scene. This street here is still blocked off to the public. Like you said, Mark, Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown issued a curfew saying that the area from Boone Avenue, Spokane Falls Boulevard, and Howard Street to Division, as well as Riverfront Park, is going to be closed from 9:30 tonight. That's just in about half an hour or so, until about 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. Officers are still here, as you can see, and at this moment, protesters are still out here expressing their dislike, their disagreement with what's transpired here as of right now. There's no word yet on those two gentlemen that were detained at this hour, but we do know that former City Council member Ben Stuckert has been arrested.
All right, Connor, stick with us for a second. From your vantage point, can you give us a sense of how many people are down there? I know it's difficult to get a head count when you're in a situation like that, but what's your guess down there tonight?
Frankly, it's only gotten bigger since we've been here. It was a few dozen just this afternoon. We're seeing probably in the realm of a couple of hundred people so far. A lot with signs, a lot expressing their disagreement with what's gone on here, what's been reported here, and the arrests that have gone on. But it's safe to say a couple of hundred people are out here, and that's what's responding. Spokane Police, Spokane County Sheriff's Office, as well as Spokane SWAT here at this time. Now, when it comes to what's going on here, it's still unclear as far as how long it's going to be, but like you were saying, Mark, and like I said, the mayor has issued a curfew for just a little less than half an hour from now. But like I said, about a couple of hundred people are out here right now protesting, and there are, it's safe to say, dozens of officers here on scene from multiple different departments trying to combat what is going on here.
All right, Connor, hang out there for us, if you will. Some good reporting right there. In the foreground, I see a protester, presumably what appears to be holding one of those tear gas canisters. For some context here, this all began, as Connor mentioned, at around 3 o'clock this afternoon with the detainment, according to former Spokane City Councilman Ben Stuckert, of two Venezuelan men who he said one of which was trying to seek asylum and was detained. So then he put the call out for more people to join this protest. That group gathered earlier today. We had it in our earlier newscast in front of a bus that they thought would be used to transport those two men from here to an ICE facility in Tacoma. Around 7 o'clock tonight or so, some Spokane police officers arrived on scene to that ICE facility. And then from there is when things escalated. We did hear from police tonight. They told us that specific ICE facility, according to them, is empty. No ICE officers are in there right now. And then just about 8 o'clock or so, things kind of got a bit sideways with protesters and police clashing. As we see in the video, police using the tear gas canisters to try to disperse the crowd. Again, that curfew has been issued. It takes effect at 9:30 tonight. It remains in place until 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. The exact area is from Boone and Howard to Division, and it also includes Riverfront Park. There are very few exemptions of that curfew, so pretty much everybody, according to the mayor, needs to abide by it. And we do know that there's been a state of emergency declared by the city as well. Police, again, declaring this an unlawful assembly. They're trying to get people to clear out. And this all happening on the backdrop of what's going on nationally with these anti-ICE protesters, specifically that situation in Los Angeles, where the president has called in the National Guard and Marines to, I guess, quell protesters down there, anti-ICE protesters. So these kinds of clashes happening across the country, they have now reached Spokane tonight, and we are seeing it unfold right here on our TV screen. Let's get back down now to our Connor McAvoy. And Connor, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to speak with any of the demonstrators at all tonight. What is their message? What are they saying to you about why they're out there?
Well, Mark, a majority of the protesters that I've spoken with have said the same thing, that they want this to remain peaceful and they want their voices heard. Now, several are still out here, and their big thing is that they want to make sure that they are able to peacefully protest and, as they say, exercise their right to do so. Now, as you can see right here, people are displaying a flag right here. It looks to be of the Virgin Mary in front of several police cars right here. Like I said just a few minutes ago, two different times they've dropped smoke bombs, taking people back away from the Spokane ICE office here. We're right at the intersection of North River Drive and Washington Street, and you can still see there's several people here behind me. And like I said, Mark, a majority of them that I've spoken with simply say that they want their voices heard and they want to continue their ability to protest the situation going on right here.
Consideration, we know there is a Spokane Velocity match taking place, so all those fans are going to be getting out in that general vicinity at that same time. So police, I would imagine, in the city are trying to get this wrapped up as quickly as they can, although at least right now from our vantage point that we're looking at, Connor, it doesn't seem like the majority of the people that we're seeing in your shot, they seem to be sticking around.
They are sticking around. That is exactly right, Mark. They are still here. They are still not going anywhere, even though that curfew has been issued, again, by Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown. That curfew is exempt for people living in the area, as well as media crews and people coming out of the podium as well. But people are not sticking around. Folks are staying right here, continually staying here, protesting the situation happening here. There are several officers here. You might be able to hear one speaking over the intercom as we speak right here, and it has been going on here for several hours. You can see police lights galore right up Washington Street, right here, again, at North River in Washington, just up the road of Washington. You can see several police lights flashing. You can see several, again, it's Spokane Police, the Spokane County Sheriff's Office, and Spokane SWAT here. They're trying to contain the situation, but there are several protesters out here still, and it doesn't look like things are dying down here just yet.
Hang out there. We'll come back to you in just a few minutes. Again, you're watching live pictures of a clash between Spokane police officers and anti-ICE demonstrators. This has been about 6 hours or so in the making. It all started with a small crowd gathering at the Spokane ICE facility at Washington and Cataldo. And there were two Venezuelan men who were detained. That's according to former Spokane City Councilman Ben Stuckert, one of which we know, at least one of which who was planning to seek asylum, again, according to Ben Stuckert, and was detained. They feared that person would then be taken to the ICE facility over in Tacoma. So the call was put out for more demonstrators to come down, several of which did. There was a bus outside that facility that demonstrators believed would be used to take that detainee, that Venezuelan man, from Spokane over to Tacoma. So a lot of them set up shop in front of that bus. They sat down in front of it, even parked a car in front of it. And things kind of stayed right there localized for several hours. Then at around 7 tonight, we saw more police arrive on scene. Things began to get a bit heated. And here we are at this hour, 9:10 tonight. Just about 8:20 or so, the Spokane Mayor, Lisa Brown, she came out, issued that curfew, which is a relatively rare thing for her to do, I should say. In my time here, 10 years, I can only remember a handful of times where a curfew was issued by the mayor. This one takes effect in just about 20 minutes or so at 9:30 tonight. Again, the specific area is from Boone and Howard over to Division. It also includes Riverfront Park. Their curfew, they say, will stay in effect until 5 a.m. Spokane police have declared this an unlawful assembly. They are telling the people to clear the area. We do know, as we are seeing, that several people have been arrested tonight, to include former Spokane City Councilman Ben Stuckert. We don't have a total for the number of arrests tonight. We just know that it is several people. As far as how long this will unfold for, we just don't know yet. According to Connor there, our crew on the scene, and our photographer, Aiden Brown, there are several people, dozens, that remain on the scene tonight who don't appear to be leaving anytime soon. Let's get back down to our Connor McAvoy tonight. And Connor, we have seen police kind of use this tear gas to disperse the crowds. Can you give us a sense of when they use that tear gas, does that seem to make anybody leave the scene, or do they just return?
It's safe to say that it's not steering a lot of people away. They're just simply stepping back. Now you can see the crowd here. You can see a Riverfront Park sign right there. That's where a majority of the crowd is gathered as of now. They were up the street at Washington Street, just up near the Spokane ICE office earlier this afternoon. And with those smoke bombs being dropped, there were 2 different rounds of smoke bombs being dropped. That has caused people to step away and step back as they were clearing the area right there. But this group of people here are still at the scene here, again, at the intersection of North River Drive and Washington Street. Now, we're seeing helicopters in the sky right now. We're not 100% sure what that is as far as what agency or if they are involved in this in any way, but we are seeing several crews on the ground here, as well as the Spokane police cars, Spokane County Sheriff, Spokane SWAT here on scene. They have taken people back all the way to this intersection here, right up the road at Washington Street. Up there is the Spokane ICE office. That is where this all started, again, just earlier this afternoon. The crowd has since grown The crowd grew significantly at about 7 o'clock tonight as a large group of demonstrators came up this street protesting this road blockage here on Washington Street. Now, again, the mayor has issued a curfew for this area. It's supposed to go into effect here in just about 15 minutes or so. But from what I'm gathering here, folks are not going away from here. They are staying put, still, as they say, exercising their right to do so, to protest. But as of right now, it's still unclear as to, like you said, Mark, when this will end and if this is going to de-escalate anytime soon.
And Connor, in terms of the people who you've seen being arrested tonight, are they the ones that are kind of right up in front of the police officers, or who are police arresting? The one who seem to be kind of face-to-face with officers?
Yes, definitely. As far as the people that have been arrested, it's people that are getting face-to-face with those officers. There's been a few different scuffles going around. One woman I did see was dragged in the street, being arrested. Again, the Spokane police have stated that this is an unlawful form of assembly, in that anyone staying around here is at risk of being arrested, and they did threaten prior to, when they dropped the smoke bombs, that they would be using them. As of right now, a lot of those people that are being arrested are people that did get pretty close to those officers that are on scene here. And a few, like I said, were dragged in the street here on Washington Street. And it's unknown how many, but it's very safe to say several have been arrested at this hour, including that former city council member.
Quickly, we know that One Spokane Stadium is very near to where you're at right now. There is a Spokane Velocity match in that. A lot of folks park on the other side of the park from that and walk through it to get there. So I imagine they might encounter this whole situation.
That's right, Mark. They may encounter this situation. Now, that curfew, that they may encounter that situation, and that curfew is exempt for those people just trying to leave the stadium, but they may face significant delays right here on Washington Street. As you can see, several police cars are out here shining their lights bright. And at this hour, we're still working to see how this is going to look here just later this evening. As far as we can tell, there has not been a whole lot of de-escalation at this hour right now. But we're still here. We're still taking a look at everything going on. And we're seeing several crews here. Like I said, there's been a couple of different rounds of smoke bombs going off in the last couple of hours or so. And people are still chanting. You could probably hear it just off here. People are still chanting against the actions that they say are not acceptable here in Spokane.
McAvoy, thank you very much. Just into our inbox here on my iPhone here, I got an email from the City of Spokane, and it's addressing the media, and it says that Mayor Brown will hold a press conference at City Hall at 10 p.m. tonight, asking us to RSVP for that. So we are expecting to hear from the mayor herself in about 45 minutes or so. If we could get back, I'll try to get back to that curfew that was issued by the mayor, and I'll just pull it up and kind of read you directly what it said. It said where this curfew takes place, again, tonight, 9:30 p.m. it starts. It'll remain in place until 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. It says the area from Boone Avenue to Spokane Falls Boulevard and Howard Street to Division Street, as well as Riverfront Park. It says who? It says everyone must abide by this curfew. Limited exceptions apply, including law enforcement, emergency personnel, media, people leaving the soccer game at the podium or One Spokane Stadium, and residents living in the area and people going to and from work. Again, we are just learning that Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown plans to hold a press conference at 10 o'clock tonight regarding this ongoing scuffle or confrontation between Spokane police and anti-ICE protesters. This whole situation has been building for the last 6 or so hours tonight. It started at 3 o'clock, roughly thereabout, in front of the ICE facility downtown with the detainment of 2 Venezuelan men. Former Spokane City Councilman Ben Stuckert putting the call out for demonstrators to show support for that situation because, according to him, one of those men, at least one of them, was an asylum seeker and they were detained. So several people responded to that situation, gathered in front of the ICE facility down there. And then from there, here we are now. The crowd has grown significantly to what it was earlier today. Earlier today, from our vantage point, it appeared there was maybe a three dozen or so people at that demonstration in front of the ICE facility there. They had gathered in front of a bus. They believed the asylum seeker or the detainees were going to be used to be transported from Spokane to Tacoma. Then things grew. A lot more folks showed up. Police declared it an unlawful assembly, told the people to disperse, as you can see right here, using tear gas in hopes or in aims of getting them to disperse. We know that several people have been arrested. Again, we don't have any numbers on the amount of people or the number of people arrested tonight. We just know that it is several. The person arrested, or the arrests, that includes former Spokane City Councilman Ben Stuckert, the one-time mayoral candidate in 2019 who ran against then Mayor Nadine Woodward and lost in that election to her. So here we are, 6 hours in. The confrontation continues. It is happening downtown. Police, again, trying to get the crowds to disperse. A curfew has been issued. We are expecting to hear from the mayor. We want to get back down to our Connor McAvoy. Connor, it is getting dark tonight. So can you give us an idea on kind of what has changed or maybe what is changing in terms of maybe the atmosphere down there as the sun is setting here in Spokane?
Well, as far as the atmosphere here downtown, again at North River and Washington Street, the atmosphere, it has come and gone as far as the shouting, as far as the expression that this group of people has. Several dozen people are here right now. That group has only continued to grow as we continue being here. You can see police cars are here at the intersection of North River Drive and Washington Street. Units from Spokane Police, Spokane Sheriff's Office, as well as Spokane SWAT are here on scene. They've arrested several people at this just in the last couple of hours or so. And there are still plenty of people out here that are demonstrating, that are still shouting to officers here on scene, expressing their distrust, they say, when it comes to the whole situation going on here. Now, it has caused this area here of Washington Street to be blocked off. So folks coming out of the podium after the soccer game are going to have to find a different way to get home, excuse me, somehow. But at this time, this is the situation that it is right now, and there's no word on how long this is going to be blocked off.
Connor, thank you very much. We are just about 6.5 hours into this demonstration that started small and escalated from there. Also about 10 minutes away from that curfew taking effect in that area where the demonstration is ongoing. This is taking place under the backdrop of anti-ICE demonstrations really nationwide. The big one, of course, getting the most attention is the one down in Los Angeles, where President Trump has called in the National Guard against the will of the governor in California. Virginia, and also the Marines to help quell some of the demonstrations down there, the anti-ICE demonstrations there. Over in Seattle, there are also hundreds of people I see on social media that are demonstrating with these anti-ICE demonstrations as well. And now Spokane. We don't know the exact number of demonstrators. It's hard to pin that number down. We do know, according to our crew there on the scene, on the ground right there, several dozen, potentially 100 or 200 people. We do know, again, several arrests tonight, including former Spokane City Council President Ben Stucker among those arrested. We are hoping to get more information on the number of people arrested. The mayor, again, declaring this an unlawful assembly, asking people to leave the area, but at this moment, doesn't appear that all of them are doing so. Still, several dozen remain downtown tonight in this continuing clash between police and these anti-ICE demonstrators. Again, this all began earlier this afternoon with the detainment, according to Ben Stucker, the former city council president, of 2 Venezuelan men who were seeking asylum. That brought out more people to the demonstration, and it just grew from there. About 7 o'clock tonight, police arrived on the scene, trying to encourage the folks to leave. That didn't happen. More folks showed up, and then this clash happened. Again, we're seeing tear gas and other measures used to try to disperse the crowd. So far, though, they remain. We're about 9 minutes away from that curfew taking place. Once again, it's from Boone and Howard to Division. It also includes Riverfront Park. That will remain in place until 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. The mayor, Lisa Brown, hoping to hold a press conference, she said, planning to hold a press conference at 10 o'clock tonight. We will have a crew there at that press conference to hear the latest from the mayor. Connor, I want to bring you back into the mix tonight. Oh, we understand we have lost his live shot at this hour, but our crew down there has been there for several hours, and they say it does not appear that this crowd is going to disperse, at least the bulk of them. There are several dozen folks down there right now, and police, again, trying to get them to move. This is just one of several anti-ICE protests taking place across the nation tonight. Again, the big one in Los Angeles. That's the one getting a lot of the attention. That clash has been going on for 5 days or so down there, with the president, again, calling in the National Guard and even the Marines to disperse the crowds down in that area. All right, so the latest situation right now. Curfew about to take effect. Several people arrested. Police continue to try to get that crowd to disperse. Do we have our live crew, Connor McAvoy, down at the scene tonight, or do we not? Okay, Connor, you're back tonight. Want to get back down to you to give us kind of an update on what you're seeing. It seems like just several dozen people still milling about behind you. Has it gotten any smaller, or are more people arriving?
Well, the crowd has definitely, as far as the size goes, it looks to be a little bit smaller. It's gotten a bit quieter here at this moment, but that could very well change here even just the next several moments. You can hear some people screaming right here, right in front. You can see somebody right there pointing right there to Spokane police officers here on scene right at the intersection of North River Drive and Washington Street. There are several police cars here on scene. You can see all the way up Washington Street. Now you can hear and see several people yelling at Spokane police at the scene right here. It's been coming and going as far as the noise volume here at this hour. Some groups have gotten a bit rowdy, a bit screaming and things like that, and they've gotten quieter since. Now, since we've seen several units responding, including the Spokane Police Department, Spokane Sheriff's Office, and Spokane SWAT here at this area, just up the road is the Spokane ICE office. We did get word from the Spokane Police Department, an officer who says that it is empty at this time, but that isn't stopping several dozen people out here from screaming at police, from demonstrating, things of that nature, as police are still on scene here, and they're not going away from what the looks of it anytime soon.
Police in from one of our county commissioners, Spokane County Commissioner Josh Kearns, and I'll just read it to you if we could just show some of the live pictures of what's going on right now. Commissioner Kearns releasing the statement that says, "The unrest we have seen in the city of Spokane is unacceptable," he said. "I stand with the dedicated men and women of law enforcement who put themselves in harm's way to protect lives, businesses, and public safety." He said, "Thank you to our police officers, deputies, and their families tonight. We support you and have your back." Again, this is a statement from Spokane County Commissioner Josh Kearns. He goes on to say, "I strongly support every American's First Amendment right to speak freely and protest peacefully, but that right does not include violence, obstruction of law enforcement, and destruction of property." That's from Spokane County Commissioner Josh Kearns at this hour. All right, we are about 4 minutes away from this curfew. Here's a map of that curfew that takes effect again at 9:30 tonight. This curfew put into place, or issued rather, by Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown in light of this protest and a clash between protesters and police tonight. The general area from Boone and Howard over to Division, it also includes Riverfront Park. It will remain in effect or go into effect at 9:30 tonight and remain in place until 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. There are several exceptions in place for that. I should say a few exceptions for law enforcement, emergency responders, media, and folks leaving that soccer game at One Spokane Stadium that probably is just about to get out or getting out at this hour. Kind of a situation that really started small and escalated from there. It all began again earlier this afternoon with a small group of demonstrators at the ICE facility or ICE office in downtown Spokane, and it just grew larger and larger from there. Interesting, it began with in large part with former Spokane City Councilman Ben Stuckert, former City Council President Ben Stuckert, and one-time mayoral candidate. He was there in support of two Venezuelan men, he said, two young men who said one of which at least was planned to seeking asylum. Instead, according to him, they were detained. That prompted the crowd to get down there and voice their opposition to that, and the situation just escalated from there. Again, several people have been arrested tonight. We don't have a clear number on the number of arrests. Police have deployed what appears to be tear gas to disperse the crowd. City has declared it an unlawful assembly of people, and again, that curfew just about 3 minutes away from taking effect. It's unclear when that hits, that 9:30 time frame hits, if police will move in and make more arrests at that point or not. So we're waiting to see exactly kind of what happens when we hit that 9:30 hour. We want to get back down to our Connor McAvoy. He's down there with one of our photojournalists, Aiden Brown. They've been down there for several hours this evening, kind of watching the situation unfold. And Connor, I know I've kind of asked you this before, and it may seem a bit redundant, but do you have any sense on if the number of people is getting larger or decreasing at this hour?
Well, it's a little unclear, but it looks to be staying about the same since it's been about 30 minutes ago or so. Right here you can see a group of people in front of a Riverfront Park sign right there. Very well known intersection here in Spokane at North River Drive and Washington Street. There's several people here that are out here demonstrating their opposition against two Spokane police right now. And as far
We had to kind of cut out of the audio right there from Connor's shot because there was a demonstrator kind of getting right in front of our camera, and we're just worried about profanity going on, or out rather, over the air. Again, this is a live look. Well, that was a live look. Here's pictures from earlier in the evening of kind of the line of police with demonstrators right there. We can see that gentleman in the T-shirt and the shorts. I believe we have some video of him being arrested a short time after that. Again, several people have been arrested, according to our crews on the ground. Yeah, there he is. It appears the folks being arrested are ones that are kind of right up there with police as they're forming that line and trying to get people to disperse. We are going on about 6.5 hours into this demonstration, which again started much smaller and grew. Here's a map of that curfew area, just about 1 minute away from that curfew taking effect, again from Boone and Howard to Division. It includes Riverfront Park as well. That curfew will remain in effect until 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'm trying to rack my brain to see if I recall the last time a curfew was in effect in Spokane or issued, and it's not often, I can tell you. It is pretty rare for a curfew to be issued in downtown Spokane. We've seen similar protests taking effect. I'm being told now by my producer the last time the curfew, as far as we could tell, was issued was during the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. So several years ago for sure. This is just one of several protests happening nationwide. We know protesters have gathered in Seattle as well tonight and are demonstrating. Of course, down in Los Angeles and in many major cities across the U.S., they are these anti-ICE protests as President Trump's mass deportation effort is in full swing. The big one, of course, down in Los Angeles. Here's video of LA right now. You can see several squad cars lined up as those protests continue. Day 5 of protests down there. The National Guard, even the Marines have been called in down there for that situation. The governor of California is opposing the military being called in and opposing the use of the National Guard in that situation. All right, time now is 9:30 locally. the curfew officially in effect for that area of downtown Spokane where the protest is taking place. Connor, we were just curious if when the curfew takes effect, it's now in effect, if we're seeing any additional action from police.
Well, Mark, right now it is 9:30, but police haven't said anything just yet, but that could change here in just a few moments. That curfew is being issued starting tonight, right now, and will be going until a little after 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. You can see several police crews are still on here. You can hear a police officer speaking over the intercom right here.
And it's 9:30 p.m. This curfew will go.
And this curfew is, he's saying this curfew is going into effect, and that they are still calling this an unlawful assembly of people here at the intersection of North River Drive and Washington Street. Just heard from the intercom there that if people do not leave, they are at risk of being arrested. Like I said, several people have been arrested here in the last few hours or so. You can see folks just across the street from me here are not too happy about that right now, but that is what Spokane police officers are saying. One just said over the intercom that if people do not leave, they are at risk of being arrested, as they are calling this an unlawful assembly here. Again, like you said, Mark, a couple different rounds of what appeared to be tear gas were dropped on Washington Street here to back people away from the Spokane ICE office just up the road here at Washington Street, where several police cars are blocking that off, and several people here on Spokane City Street on Washington Street are still out yelling, screaming, speaking their voices out right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much of a buffer police will give the demonstrators before they may take further action. Again, the curfew now in effect. It took effect about 2 minutes ago for people in the Boone and Howard to Division area and Riverfront Park where the demonstrators are gathered tonight. We do understand we have some video. Oh, here is, again, the map of that curfew area. We looked it up while Connor was speaking on the air. The last time a curfew was issued by a mayor was back on June 1st of 2020. Mayor then Nadine Woodward issued that curfew for George Floyd protests and riots that were taking place in downtown Spokane. So it's been 5 years since the curfew was issued, so it's certainly a rare event here in Spokane. If we're going to recap kind of a timeline of events, it all began 3 o'clock earlier today. A small demonstration grew from there. Police arrived at that ICE facility where demonstrators were gathered, encouraged folks to leave. Things escalated from that point. At around 8:20 tonight, the mayor issued that curfew, which again is now in effect as of 3 minutes ago. Police also calling this an unlawful assembly, asking people to leave the area. People have not. Several people have been arrested. Tear gas, it appears, has been deployed to try to get those crowds to disperse. So far, a lot of those demonstrators remain downtown at this hour. We mentioned this is just one of several ongoing protests across the nation. This is the one in Spokane. We can see that gentleman and another person being what appears to be arrested right there. We have some live pictures, or here we go, right here, some video from Seattle earlier today where these anti-ICE protesters also taking place. And if here some folks are right there behind something that's on fire in a city street, according to reports on social media from media in that area, there are several hundred anti-ICE protesters taking part in those demonstrations, of course, in LA and in many major cities across the U.S. Here's a picture from LA right now. Again, this LA situation, this is the one that really sparked the other nationwide anti-ICE protests. That and the President Trump's response to it by sending in the National Guard of California, despite the governor of California not asking for the National Guard to be called up. The president also sending in the Marines to that situation. So day 5 or so of anti-ICE demonstrations taking place in Los Angeles. Again, also taking place in Seattle, many other major cities across the U.S., and now in Spokane. That curfew, about 5 minutes ago, it took effect in downtown Spokane. It all began, according to former Spokane City Council President Ben Stuckert, because of the detainment of 2 young men from Venezuela, one of which at least was planning to seek asylum and instead was detained. That's according to Stuckert right there. And that prompted the crowd initially to gather, and it's just grown from there. Let's get back down to our Connor McAvoy tonight. Connor, it is dark now. We are past the curfew time. Has anything changed from your vantage point?
Yeah, well, Mark, right now it's only been a few minutes since that curfew went into effect, and nothing much has happened here just in the last few minutes or so. You can see that there's several police vehicles here on Washington Street, and they're just going up all the way. That's units from Spokane Police, Spokane Sheriff's Office, as well as Spokane SWAT here on scene, looking at the dozens of people that are out here right now. In regard to this whole situation that occurred here at the Spokane ICE office, it was just a small group that came in just about 3 p.m., and it wasn't until about 7 p.m. that a large turnout came to this protest going on. You can hear a group of people behind me chanting against what is going on here as police are still blocking this off. And like we said before, a couple of different rounds of tear gas have dropped to the ground here at Washington Street, causing a bunch of people to step away from where it initially started at the Spokane ICE office here. And we did manage to get some video of the scene going on. There were several people that were arrested, including one woman that I did see who was dragged away in the street. It's unclear at this time how things are looking now that curfew currently is in effect and has been for the last several minutes or so, just about 6 minutes. Now, Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown is planning on holding a press conference at just about 10 p.m. At City Hall, and that's going to be in about 24 minutes or so from now. Meanwhile, there's still several dozen people out here still protesting again at the intersection of North River Drive and Washington Street, and police haven't taken too much action here yet since that curfew did go into effect. It's still unclear how things are looking from here on.
Thank you very much. Of course, this is all happening as a Spokane Velocity match was taking place right nearby at One Spokane Stadium. Our Andrew Quinn, our sports reporter, he's getting his microphone on right now, and he's planning to head over and to talk to me about the situation as it unfolded. But I'm going to read one of his tweets from earlier tonight at the game. He said, "Smoke bombs have been released at the ICE protest in Spokane, and smoke is flooding into One Spokane Stadium during the Velocity match." So, and he tweeted several pictures, or a couple pictures that go along with that, where you could see kind of the smoke there in the stadium. We also got an email from someone stating that they were at the game and they saw the smoke and smelled it, and they said that it hurt their eyes as well. So this having impact on more than just the immediate vicinity right there where the demonstrators have gathered. We are about going on 7 hours into this demonstration, and they seem to be kind of at a standstill with police and protesters. Police, of course, asking them to leave. The city saying it's an unlawful assembly. That curfew's now been in effect for just about 8 minutes, but they're kind of at a standstill, it appears right now. So we're just kind of waiting to see if police take any additional action now that the curfew is in place. All right, our sports reporter, Andrew Quinn, joining me here at the set tonight to talk about the situation at the Spokane Velocity match earlier today, One Spokane Stadium. It's right near where that demonstration or protest was taking place, and kind of tell us what you saw and heard and experienced in the stadium.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. It was kind of at some point in the second half, there was a plume of smoke that had kind of rushed over the walls into the stadium at one point, and you could see people were wondering if it was tear gas, if they needed to disperse, if they needed to leave that area. Fans were told by security that it was just smoke bombs and that it would clear, and then later in the second half of the match, there were several more smoke bombs released. At that point, people kind of started freaking out a little bit. At that point, Spokane Velocity ownership made the decision to move people away from the bleacher area up onto the concourse and away from where the smoke was coming from, right there by the podium tonight, which was obviously right behind where this protest is going on. So definitely some scary scenes down there tonight. Obviously interesting to see it affect a sporting event. Now, the match was never stopped. The match continued throughout, despite the fact that smoke did pour into the stadium tonight. But, the match ended, went to full time, and everyone seemed to be accounted for after the match from people who were trying to leave, as obviously, as you know, this is right outside One Spokane Stadium, but it seemed like everyone was able to get away safely. Yeah,
what was the reaction by the crowd tonight? Was there any kind of panic, or did they just kind of calmly get out of their seats and go down to the concourse, or how would you describe it?
There was certainly some panic. I would say in the second half, when the second smoke bombs were released, you could see people were screaming to the referees to stop the match, that they didn't know what was going on, and that, no one should be playing with smoke entering the stadium. And a large portion of the crowd was actually more worried about the ball boys, the kids who are on the field, and trying to keep them safe as all of this was going on. But like we said earlier, they were smoke bombs. The smoke did disperse after a short while. The match went on, and nobody seemed to be in any real danger at the match. And it seemed like everyone was able to get out safely after the match.
Well, that's certainly some good news right there.
Yeah.
Andrew Quinn, thank you very much for that recap of that situation. Certainly an interesting situation with One Spokane Stadium. All right, here's the map of the curfew area tonight. This curfew took effect just about 11 minutes ago for downtown Spokane. Boone and Howard to Division and Riverfront Park are included in that curfew. That would remain in effect until 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. We looked it up because curfews aren't issued often here in Spokane by the mayor. The last time that we could find that a curfew was issued was back on June 1st of 2020. Mayor then Woodward issuing the curfew for the George Floyd protests or riots that took place in downtown Spokane. So 5 years ago, the last time that we can find a curfew being issued here in Spokane. We are just about 7 hours or so into this situation tonight. If you're just joining us, we have breaking news coverage of an ongoing clash between anti-ICE protesters, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, anti-ICE protesters, and Spokane police in downtown Spokane. Things really began to escalate, I would say, around 7:30 or so, with police moving in and forming a line and trying to force these people back, the city declaring it an unlawful assembly. The mayor then, just about 8:20 tonight, issuing that curfew. The curfew is now in effect. We do have a crew on the scene, our photojournalist Aiden Brown and our reporter KREM 2's Connor McAvoy. Connor, you guys have been down there for several hours at this point. We're now 12 minutes or so into the curfew. What's your assessment right now?
Well, Spokane police officer just announced over the intercom that everyone out here is in fact violating that curfew, like you said, Mark, issued by Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown. There's still a couple dozen people still out here, or so, a few dozen people, I should say, that are still out here. It's a little quiet right now. Just a few minutes ago, there were quite a few people that were chanting towards the police here on Washington Street. We're standing right at the intersection of North River Drive and Washington Street, where this is all taking place, right next to the podium, where you just heard from Andrew Quinn about his perspective on everything going on here and the initial impact that the tear gas was having that came down. A couple different rounds of tear gas hit the street here on Washington Street, and that caused quite a few people to move back towards this intersection. They were just up at the Spokane ICE office just up the road here on Washington Street, where all of this transpired just earlier this evening. It started as a protest at about 3 o'clock this afternoon, when about 7 o'clock or so, a large demonstration of people came here to protest the actions of the Spokane Police Department here. Now, Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown is holding a press conference in about 17 minutes or so at this, just in a few minutes from now. But people are still out here, and as of right now, given that it's after 9:30, they are violating that curfew. And a Spokane police officer just did make that announcement that that people out here are violating it, and that people are at risk of being arrested at this hour.
All right, Connor, hang tight and keep us posted on if you see anything change right now. Connor, you were saying before we let you go, by your estimate, of a few dozen people that remain there right now, so that's a much smaller number of people than were there at its peak, would you say?
Yeah, I would say that's definitely a smaller number of people than it was just a few hours ago. It was safe to say that there was maybe roughly a couple of hundred people or so that were out here, but now it's safe to say that there are a few dozen. The crowd has slimmed a little bit, but you can still see it's pretty significant here. You can see a Riverfront Park sign right there, again at the intersection of North River Drive and Washington Street, seeing several police vehicles up here on this street blocking it off, as they are still saying that this is an unlawful assembly and that people that are out here have the basically have the risk, I should say, of being arrested at this time. But the crowd has since dimmed slightly, but it's still significant at this hour.
Good boy. Thank you very much, and hang tight down there if you can. Thank you, Connor. We understand we have another one of our crew members there at City Hall at this hour. KREM 2's Amanda Rowley. She is the one who covered this initial demonstration that started outside that ICE office in downtown Spokane earlier today. Amanda, here we are almost 7 hours after that, live at City Hall tonight, awaiting this presser from the Spokane mayor. What can you tell us?
As a part, just to...
Yeah,
Yeah, Mark, I just got to City Hall just a matter of minutes ago. I'm here with my photographer, Roger Hatcher. What I did notice is we do have some Spokane police officers, we do have some officers here on scene. We do see two that they were at the door. Right now we're just waiting for that press conference that Mayor Lisa Brown will be giving at 10 o'clock. We're about 15 minutes away. We are waiting to hear what she has to say. No word yet if that's going to be outside, if it's going to be inside, where this is all taking place, but we are here. We're ready to hear what she has to say. It's now 15 minutes after that curfew. We, from our perspective at City Hall, can see those helicopters that Connor mentioned earlier this evening. They are still circling around. It is calm here. On my way through downtown, I even asked Roger on my way through downtown, how does Riverfront Park look? It's pretty clear right now. I saw maybe a handful of people waving signs right off of Spokane Falls Boulevard, but there was no other group to be seen. So for the most part, it's calm, it's clear. Again, we are waiting to hear from Mayor Lisa Brown to hear her statement and comments on the situation that's unfolding where Connor and Aiden are at this moment. Mark?
Amanda, one quick question for you. You covered this initial demonstration which started outside the ICE facility in Spokane earlier this afternoon. And as we've been describing it, it was because, according to former city council person Ben Stuckert, two Venezuelan men, one of which was seeking asylum, was then detained. And that's kind of what sparked all this, according to Stuckert?
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right, Mark. We saw a Facebook post from Ben Stuckert, our former city council member and former mayoral candidate. He said, hey, Spokane community, come help me protest this detainment. There are two young men, Venezuelan, who have been detained. One of them is celebrating their 21st birthday today. And Mark, I'm going to let you go. If you want to follow us in, we're going inside right now to go hear from the mayor. If you want to come back to us, we'll get this feed up for you in a second. All right, follow us. So we're walking into the side door of the City Hall. We're joined by a few other media members. We're being greeted at the door by Communication Director Aaron Hutt. All right. Yep. Go ahead. Thank you. All right, we've just come into City Hall. You got that, Raj? Aaron, are we headed to the chambers?
We will not be in the chambers, so we'll be near there.
Okay, we're going to be just outside the chambers. We're following with a group of folks to hear from the mayor. We're in the art gallery, just above the art gallery, above the City Hall chambers here. We have a podium set up and waiting to hear from the mayor here shortly.
All right, that's our Amanda Rowley. She's getting in place for this 10 p.m. press conference with Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown. She's inside City Hall right now. Folks getting that podium prepared, about 11 minutes or so away from that. Covering the ongoing clash between police and protesters in downtown Spokane tonight. I do understand, in the meantime, we do have some live pictures coming out of Seattle tonight. If we could pull those up right now. There's also several demonstrations taking place there. Take a look right now. We could see a fire burning and several what appear to be demonstrators gathered in Seattle as well. According to media reports from folks over there, several hundred anti-ICE protesters have gathered in Seattle right now. We can see kind of in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, something is on fire and people are gathered around. As they zoom out, you might get a little better picture of how many people are at this specific location. But again, Spokane, not the only city seeing these anti-ICE demonstrations taking place, happening all across the country. Of course, the big one that prompted many of these is the one down in Los Angeles. It's day 5 of that demonstration going. These are just some pretty incredible pictures out of Seattle, by the way. We can see that. Oh, here's Los Angeles right now. Dozens of squad cars lined up in Los Angeles tonight. Day 5 of demonstrations down there in LA. We know in that situation, again, the National Guard called up by President Trump. Marines ordered into that situation as well. There's an ongoing clash between the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, and the president. Gavin Newsom saying he didn't call up the National Guard, didn't want them called up. He claims he didn't need them called up. The president sent them anyway. So there's that dynamic taking place. And then we have several ICE demonstrations taking place in other cities across the country, to include Spokane today. We want to get back down to our Connor McAvoy. He's been kind of in the thick of it at the front line there of the demonstration for several hours tonight. Connor, we're 20 minutes or so past the curfew. What's your assessment right now?
Yeah, well, the assessment right now is you can see that the crowd has been diminished here a little bit. You can see that there's quite a few people that are sort of backing away or leaving the area there, right over there. You can see at the Riverfront Park sign, the crowd is certainly getting smaller and smaller at this time. Meanwhile, police are still out here, the same amount of units as we've been talking about here, like you were saying, several up here on Washington Street. We're standing at the intersection of North River Drive and Washington Street. You can see several out here. There's still a handful of people still yelling at officers on scene right now. But at this time, there's quite a few that are leaving the area. You might be able to hear on my mic, there's a helicopter. You might get a quick shot of that. We don't know who that is or what their involvement is in this, but you can see and hear a helicopter flying over Spokane skies tonight. It's flying over this display right here as quite a few people are leaving the area, but several police cars are still here on scene. That curfew went into effect about 20 minutes ago, and there's still some people that are still out here, still in the thick of it when it comes to everything that has gone on here. That press conference is about to be 9 minutes away from now, and still unclear what Spokane police are planning to do right now, but the crowd is certainly getting smaller at this time.
Connor, I have a question for you. We've seen the video several times tonight of police using what appears to be tear gas to disperse the crowd. Was that just used kind of a one time, or has it been continued to be used? Or from your vantage point, is it appear they have not used it for a while? Give us an assessment of that.
This isn't right! Do better!
Yes, when it comes to those smoke bombs that were dropped, it was two different rounds that were going off just earlier this evening, a couple different rounds to get people away from the Spokane ICE office, which is just up the street here from Washington Street. It was a couple of different rounds to get people that were out here protesting away from that office, and that's caused them to move to the intersection of North River Drive and Washington Street, which is where we are right now. And we can see here that there's still several crews on scene, several police vehicles here on scene on Washington Street trying to contain the situation, as there's still a sizable enough crowd. It certainly has gotten smaller in the last hour, I should say, but there still are quite a handful of people out here, and they are currently breaking Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown's curfew of 9:30. Gone on about 20 or so minutes since that went into effect, and there are still people out here still voicing their opposition against Spokane police and other emergency responders as of right now.
All right, Connor McAvoy, thank you very much. Hang out there if you would. We are just about 6 minutes away from this press conference by Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown. We understand that Spokane Police Chief Kevin Hall will also be at that press conference tonight. Here's a live look at the podium inside City Hall at this hour. Things escalating tonight. It all began around 3 o'clock with a smaller demonstration, and it grew from there. At around 8:20 tonight, after things, I guess, got heated between Spokane police and those demonstrators, the mayor coming out and issuing the curfew. Again, that curfew took effect at 9:30 tonight. It'll stay in place until 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Curfews are not issued often here in the city of Spokane. The last one that we could find in our records back on June 1st of 2020, Mayor Woodward at the time issued that curfew for the George Floyd protests that were taking place also in downtown Spokane. So 5 years ago, at least what we can find in our records, the last time a curfew was issued in the city of Spokane. We have watched tonight as several people have been arrested, to include former City Council President Ben Stuckert, the one-time mayoral candidate. He was arrested. You're seeing video of what appears to be two people arrested or detained downtown as part of that demonstration as well. These are anti-ICE demonstrations. Spokane, just one of many cities where they are taking place tonight. If we can pull back up that video from over in Seattle, we know other demonstrations are taking place there as well tonight. We have seen videos of what appears to be a fire burning in the middle of a street and demonstrators gathered. I'm being told right now we do not have those live pictures. Do we have the live pictures from Los Angeles? If we could show those ones right now. This is really the clashes between ICE and police that prompted many of these other demonstrations to take place. Here's video from Los Angeles, again, where we can see just dozens of police cars lined up. Of day 5 of these demonstrations and clashes take place between police, National Guardsmen and women and demonstrators down there, with folks across the country demonstrating against ICE and the mass deportation of individuals that is taking place right now. We are 4 minutes away from a press conference to be held by Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown. She has declared the demonstration in downtown Spokane as an unlawful assembly. That curfew now in effect for 25 minutes. We know several people have been arrested. Don't know exactly how many people. This is video from earlier today outside the ICE facility. This is where, according to Ben Stuckert, the former city councilman, 2 young Venezuelan men were taken into custody, were detained. And he was calling on other people from Spokane to come protest and make their voices heard, because he said at least one of those young men was seeking asylum. So they were protesting that detainment. Things got heated right around this moment right here, and that's when more police arrived on scene. This was roughly about 7 o'clock earlier this evening. And then the crowd grew, things got more heated, police arrived, set up kind of a line right there, as you can see, and they were trying or telling the crowd to disperse. When several of them did not, like this individual in the t-shirt right there that we just saw, he appeared to be arrested or at least detained. He was handcuffed and taken by police. Again, we don't know exactly the numbers tonight. We're still waiting to get that information, but we are expecting to learn more here shortly. Our Amanda Rowley is live at City Hall right now, where that press conference is anticipated to get underway in just a few minutes. Amanda, what can you tell us about the situation where you're at?
Yeah, Mark, just a few minutes ago, we were escorted into City Hall. We're in the area above the City Hall chambers. I'm going to step out of the way. We are anticipating the mayor and Spokane Police Chief Kevin Hall to come out and speak at this podium any moment. So in anticipation for their remarks, we're going to leave it on this shot for now. We know that the curfew was at 9:30, and just earlier this evening, we learned that the mayor had called on the media to share her remarks about what the city is now calling unlawful gathering protests in the city right now. So right now we are waiting to hear from the mayor and the city police chief.
And a Rowley right there. Gosh, Amanda, we're just a couple of minutes away. And Amanda, if you're still there and able to answer a question, you were our reporter covering this initial demonstration today, which I think started at around 3 o'clock. Can you talk about that at all, about kind of what you were covering at that point?
Yeah, Mark. Yes, Mark, so sorry, we're listening to see if there's any update from the communications manager. Still waiting a few more minutes on the mayor and chief. Yes, so I went to the Spokane ICE office at about 2 o'clock this afternoon. It's right there next to the one podium. When I arrived, there was maybe 30 people, 20 to 30 people sitting outside the office, gathered, chanting. Some were sitting around the bus that was parked outside. When I spoke to Ben Stuckert, he said that ICE agents had told him that the 2 men that they had detained would be transported on that bus to Tacoma to another ICE facility. And for the most part, there was just chanting and just protesters sitting in and around the building. But as the afternoon went on, after we went into the evening, the crowd grew way more packed and frankly a little bit more violent. At some point, we followed the crowd to the back side of that building where the ICE office is. There are 2 gates that look to be what ICE uses. There were some law enforcement vehicles there. Once they tried to open the gate, that's when we saw some uniformed men trying to prevent protesters from coming moving beyond those gates. And that's when kind of a scuffle happened. It looked like
1, 2, 3,
those uniformed
1, 2,
men,
3, 1, 2, 3,
pushing back
checking.
on protesters who were trying to enter. That's when things really escalated. That was the most heated moment that I had seen all afternoon. Those uniformed men, we don't know which agency, I couldn't quite read the badges that they had on, but they closed the gates, and eventually protesters decided to gather outside the 2 gates and stacked trash, lime scooters, lime bikes, even just benches, park benches from the North Bank in front of those 2 gates. So it's definitely escalated since this evening. Again, we are waiting to hear from the mayor since the development of these protests. But Mark, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you very much. You're looking at a live picture of a podium where just any moment now, Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown and we are told the police chief Kevin Hall will address the media about the situation unfolding in downtown Spokane. If you are just joining us tonight, we have been in continuing coverage of this ongoing clash between Spokane police and anti-ICE, Immigration's Customs Enforcement, anti-ICE protesters occurring in downtown Spokane tonight. The situation really began at around 3 o'clock with a small group of demonstrators and grew from there. Things got more heated at around 7 tonight, and around 8:20 tonight, more police arrived, and the mayor, Lisa Brown, issued an 9:30 curfew. She issued that at 8:20 tonight. So the curfew has been in effect for a half hour or so. It's for the area of Boone and Howard to Division, and it also includes Riverfront Park, so right downtown. That curfew will remain in place. Here's a map of it until 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. These curfews are not issued often. The last one we could find was issued 5 years ago. We know that several people, demonstrators, have been arrested or at least taken into custody in downtown Spokane. Our crews have watched that unfold throughout the evening. We have seen officers use what appears to be either tear gas or what have been described as smoke bombs to try to disperse the crowd. Several remain. At its peak, there were 100, maybe a couple hundred, according to our crews down there on the ground, gathered in downtown Spokane. We want to go right now back to City Hall where Mayor Lisa Brown is about to speak.
Good evening, everyone. Are we good? Good evening, everyone. Mayor Lisa Brown, Mayor of Spokane. I wanted to give you an update on the situation that's unfolded today and this evening. This afternoon, former Council President Ben Stuckert called me and informed me of some individuals detained by ICE and his intent to prevent the ICE vehicle from leaving the facility. I asked him what he had fellow protesters with him wanted to achieve. We discussed legal assistance. I did call Attorney General Nick Brown and discuss the situation, made him aware of it, asked him to investigate options, and connected him to Ben. Ben did inform me that members of his group intended to peacefully protest, and they intended to stay at the facility until they were arrested. I made it clear in my public statement, as well as to Mr. Stuckert, that Spokane Police Department would remain in compliance with the Keep Washington Working Act, that they would endeavor to keep the peace, and that they would enforce Spokane laws. The City of Spokane has a commitment to upholding First Amendment rights. We believe in the right of peaceful protest, and the safety of our community members is always of the utmost importance. As we were discussing with the team, law enforcement, other members of the cabinet, trying to get a clear picture of what was occurring and discussing the best way to de-escalate the situation, we learned that vandalism was occurring, an incident with respect to the ICE vehicle, other vehicles parked near the property, some vandalism on park property, that the crowd was growing and that tensions were escalating. I made the decision that the safest course of action was for Spokane Police, not ICE, to try to safely disperse the crowd, tried to convince the protesters to leave, and if not, to follow through with arrests of any violation of Spokane Municipal Code. I'll leave it to Chief Hall to discuss what happened on the ground, but as the evening progressed, as the crowd grew, as the crowd resisted several orders to disperse, I issued the curfew with ample time to let people leave the area. We also wanted to make sure that people could leave the stadium safely, the soccer game, and make sure there was plenty of time for media notifications to go out so people would understand what was occurring. I'm relieved to share that so far our reports are positive in that no serious injuries have been reported. I know there is tremendous fear amongst our local immigrant and refugee community. My heart goes out to families who are separated or are fearful of what might happen to them in their workplace or as they proceed about their lives in Spokane. That's why I've been coordinating with some of our local partners to understand how we can be supportive of those communities, because in Spokane we all belong. We have many wonderful contributions that have been made by refugees and immigrants over decades in Spokane. And we're coordinating with state and other partners to understand how to comply with state laws, as well as federal and the Attorney General's office on the evolving legal situation that we're in right now. With that, I'll take your questions.
Mayor Brown, Amanda Rodley with KREM 2. We covered one of the larger protests in 2020 for the George Floyd protests. There was damage and violence, tear gas used. Can you describe for us what tactics, or even this is a question for Chief Hall, what tactics are being used to disperse this crowd to prevent damage and really escalating to another 2020 protest?
Yeah, I'll allow Chief Hall come to respond to that, because I understand there has been misinformation out there about the tactics that were used. So.
There was a report early in the day.
Chief Hall, why don't you go ahead?
Is he going to be able to answer?
Yeah, he's going to. Yes, right now.
Hi. In answer to that question, we paid very close attention to what the crowd was doing. We had conversations with the crowd, and in particular individuals, and what we saw was, as the mayor pointed out, an escalation in criminal behavior, not by everybody in the crowd. Certainly there were peaceful folks demonstrating and utilizing their First Amendment rights. There were also people in the crowd who were committing crimes, both state and municipal code crimes.
What sort of charges could these individuals be facing, and how many arrests have been made so far?
There's been over 30 arrests made so far. They are predominantly misdemeanor arrests for, like I said, for municipal code violations such as pedestrian interference. There was some criminal damage that was observed. A host of different crimes. Like I said, most misdemeanors. I believe there was one felony arrest, but I'm not positive.
Chief, could you also, I understand from some of our council members that there are some rumors out there about use of tear gas, use of rubber bullets, things like that. Could you clarify that, please?
There was no tear gas was administered. What you saw out there, if you were out there, was smoke, inert smoke. That is not considered a chemical munition. However, we did use pepper balls, not against individuals. It's what we call area dispersal, where we shoot it at the feet of the individuals. The pepper goes up into the air, and it behaves much like pepper spray. And we only did that because the crowd refused to move back after multiple requests to move back and give space for the officers to work.
And rubber bullets?
No rubber bullets.
Because we saw someone who had an injury on their back, it looked like, from being struck by a rubber bullet or something to that effect. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know anything about that, but I can confirm that no Spokane police officer fired any rubber bullets.
Have you heard about other agencies?
I have not.
Mayor, aware of any arrests made by any agency other than SPD?
We were the lead agency. We had the good fortune of having our regional partners assist us. The Spokane Police Department had over 185 officers at this event, and we also had the assistance of the Spokane County Sheriff, as well as our other regional partners who came in to assist in order for everybody to be safe. That was for the safety of the folks who were involved in the demonstration, as well as the safety of the officers and the safety of the folks who were being detained.
Were you in communication with ICE or any federal agencies?
We were in communication with the individuals, the ICE agents who were inside the building, yes.
Mayor Brown, you talked about Spokane's commitment to keep Washington Working Acts. We've seen the City Council support that many times. I saw Spokane police letting ICE vehicles in and out of the cordoned off area, and that seems like coordination and help.
Well, the commitment that we have is to maintain access to public property, and violation of that is blocking that property.
So it was about property, like letting them in and out of the property.
The blockading of public right-of-way in Spokane is a violation of Spokane Municipal Code. And I think that one of the key things that was part of our communication was ample notification of people in the crowd of if something they were doing was, in fact, they were being asked to move or was, in fact, a violation. And I just want to re-emphasize, I don't know the total size of people that came through the area during those several hours, but the vast majority were peaceful, expressing their viewpoints, as they have every right to do, and compliant also with officers. And that is what we hope for, that people have that right. There's serious concerns about federal policies. We want people in Spokane to feel free to express those concerns, and we also want to keep everyone safe.
Can you comment on the, I know this is a tough situation for everybody, but the idea that, you may have been, sort of adhering to the letter of the law by, dispersing people based on municipal grounds, but this was a protest that was designed to keep neighbors who are about to be removed from our city. So you may have been adhering to the letter of the law, but breaking the spirit of in Spokane we all belong by making it easier for ICE to take people out of the city.
I think it's pretty clear from the observations I had of what was occurring there, and frankly from my communication throughout the afternoon with some of the protesters, that they did not expect that they would be successful in stopping ICE, a federal agency, from completing their mission. And I think anybody who's observed that agency and its actions and the actions of the administration would reach the same conclusion. And they communicated with me that they intended and desired to engage in an act of civil disobedience that would result in arrest.
There was a rumor earlier in the afternoon that you were in direct communication, or somebody from your office was negotiating with ICE about the release of people. Is that true, or
no,
did you have conversations?
That's completely false. Okay. I've never had any communication with ICE. Okay. I was in communication fairly extensively with Attorney General Nick Brown, both describing the situation, getting his perspective on potential legal options, if any. And he then went and consulted with his team and got back to us. So that did take a period of time. And I did connect him to Ben, who was at that point the self-described leader of the group of individuals that were surrounding the vehicle.
Yeah. Mayor, did the actions by President Trump in calling out National Guard in California affect any of your decision-making and how you responded today?
I think that we're all aware, I think there's hardly anybody who wouldn't be aware of the situation that unfolded in Los Angeles and the deployment of National Guard troops and U.S. Marines to that city. I have been in contact with the U.S. Conference of Mayors that has taken a very strong position that, and I think as we demonstrated this evening, that the city is capable of conducting interactions with peaceful protests, utilizing our methods to try to de-escalate them and to keep the public safe. And it was fairly clear to me that if there was no Spokane police presence, that could be used as a justification for federal National Guard or other federal agents to come in and take control of the situation. And I had confidence in Chief Hall, Chief Oberg, who was also monitoring any situations that were occurring in conjunction with this event, that our team would do their best to communicate well with the group. They knew some of the individuals personally, had met with them before, and would do their best to have the officers conduct themselves in an appropriate way and do their best to come out with as good an outcome as possible. And we're very hopeful that, for the most part, that was achieved.
Do you know if the detainees have been removed or made to come?
I read an announcement that they have left the building. I don't know where they're going.
An announcement from ICE. Who did you read that announcement from?
Who read that? It was read to me.
It was just local press.
I think it was just local press so I'm not sure where it came from.
A quick question for Chief Hall. Were there any assaults on an officer tonight? And generally, one of the complaints that I heard a lot from the crowd is that officers were out there in TAC gear. Was that necessary? Was it necessary for officers to be in full tactical gear, wearing gas masks? Was there any opportunity to have de-escalated this without that?
The initial officers who arrived were are regular officers in regular uniforms, and that can be seen in a multitude of postings. As the situation continued to escalate and non-compliance continued to grow, we called in tactical teams to provide support for those officers. It's also those tactical teams who provide the chemical munitions that are necessary if that non-compliance grows into assaultive behavior. I can tell you I'm not aware of any assaults that were reported by the officers. Just watching some of the footage, I think technically there were assaults, but the officers used an enormous amount of restraint and understood that the emotion that was behind this particular event.
We obviously saw the sheriff's department there in some amount of force. There were also rumors, just in the interest of dispelling or confirming disinformation, there was also rumors that the Kootenai County SWAT team was coming in. Did you guys catch any reports of that?
Yes. They responded to our request for mutual aid. Okay. All of our tactical or SWAT units, both from the county and the city, were tied up on this event. Had some other critical incident occurred anywhere in the region, that would have been their responsibility.
So they were sort of waiting in backup in case something else happened.
Yes, sir.
In another location.
Based on some reporters that we had at the scene, it seemed like it was quite a while before there was police presence on the scene. I'm wondering if you regret not being there earlier to maybe lower the tension a little bit earlier.
Well, is that directed to me specifically? Yes. Well, we were in conversation about the significance of the timing, and we were also in conversation with protesters, with city council members, with people on the ground there, just trying to get as much information as possible. It was definitely our goal to not have the situation escalate, but we were well aware that it was likely to escalate. We knew there was another protest already planned at 7 p.m., and I believe that protest joined the other one. And so the question of timing is definitely something we'll assess. Like any incident that occurs, we do a pretty thorough after-action review and check our policies and procedures and communication strategies to see what worked, what could have been done better. So we will definitely be assessing all those things as we gather all the information we can about what happened at each stage of the day.
To that point, I mean, it's impossible that this isn't going to be the last time that this kind of protest happens.
Absolutely.
Lessons learned, how do you plan on addressing this going forward?
I think it's too premature for me to say lessons learned yet, but that is exactly the purpose of an after-action review, right, Chief Oberg? She's been very good at making sure that we get those done. Also, Sarah Nuss in our emergency management office. So we'll be thoroughly gathering all the information we can, including, as I said, I was in conversation with people throughout the afternoon just to get a variety of perspectives on what was occurring, and we will do that review and be happy to talk with the press about that as we go forward, because we do anticipate, given what we've heard from the president and his administration, and what we know to be the presence of members of immigrant communities here. We have members of communities that were just learned about the travel ban that will keep members of their families from reuniting with them. So we fully intend to keep discussing, understanding our responsibilities, and also ways in which we can be of assistance.
Just one more question. Mayor Brown, I mean, over our shoulder, we're seeing some protesters trickling in outside City Hall. What is your message to those who aren't following the curfew and maybe causing a muck?
Well, I think if they're outside there, they're outside the curfew zone.
Yeah, right.
However,
groups move.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And I think my message is very consistent. We respect their right to peacefully protest and to be upset about federal policies. I have been that person who has protested federal policies. And that is a right we have. I feel strongly about it. It's the way that some changes have happened in our country, if you look at the civil rights movement. And so totally respect nonviolent, peaceful protest of the public. And I also have a responsibility as the mayor to ensure that our rules, laws that we have in place in order to give people their sense of safety in our community are upheld, that property is not, if property is vandalized, that there should be consequences for that. And so that is a dialogue that we will continue to have with members of the public who are frustrated and concerned right now.
Thank you.
Mayor, Stephanie. I was just wondering, you did mention that the protests that you're doing right now, they're outside of the zone. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, there is a geographical curfew zone, which I'm very geographically challenged person. So I'm going to have somebody else communicate those 4 boundary lines.
Spokane Falls Boulevard.
Go ahead. Come on over, Chief.
Spokane Falls Boulevard to Boone on the north, Howard on the west to Division on the east.
And that's from 9:30 to 5:30, and also inclusive of Riverfront Park. So that is the geographic area. And there are exceptions for people that are going to work, or to and from work. There are some other legal exceptions. We have legal here. What are the other?
People going home.
People who are going home. This is meant to protect public safety, and we want to communicate that very clearly with people, so that we don't want anybody to unintentionally violate the curfew.
Are there any charges associated if someone is in violation of the curfew or citation? What's the ramification for not following?
I believe there is something called a curfew violation, but I'll have to defer to legal here, to our city attorney, Mike Piccolo. Mike, do you want to?
So the provisions of the curfew is under SMC 2.02, subsections 030 and 040, and a violation of those 2 sections later in that chapter makes it a misdemeanor to violate the curfew or the declaration of emergency.
Thanks, all. Thanks, everybody.
All right, you just heard a press conference held by Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown and Spokane Police Chief Kevin Hall, kind of giving their assessment of the demonstration and the related police response to it tonight. I want to recap kind of what she said if you're just joining in. The police chief saying tonight more than 30 arrests have been made tonight associated with this clash between anti-ICE protesters and Spokane police. The police chief pointing out most of those arrests were for misdemeanors. He also said tonight more than 180 officers called in response to this demonstration, so a very large response. When asked why police were called in force, he said it was clear things were escalating. There had also been some vandalism reported to an ICE vehicle and to part of the ICE building there in Spokane as well. The initial officers were not in tactical gear like you're seeing, but when things did escalate, according to Hall, that's when the tactical officers arrived in downtown Spokane. He also made it clear that no tear gas was used tonight. We saw those smoke canisters being tossed out by Spokane police. He said no tear gas was used, rather what he called inert gas, like you're seeing right there, in an attempt to disperse the crowd right there. He also said that pepper balls were fired, but he pointed out those pepper balls were not fired at people, he said rather they were fired near people's feet, because that basically dispersed the gas from those pepper balls, and that's a way to disperse the crowd as well. The mayor saying tonight that she has been in contact with the Washington Attorney General Nick Brown about what started this whole demonstration tonight, and that was with former Spokane City Council President Ben Stuckert going down to the ICE facility because he was saying 2 young Venezuelan men, one of which planned to seek asylum, were instead detained tonight by ICE, so he put the call out for people to come voice their opposition to that. The mayor saying that she had a conversation with Stuckert. Stuckert informed her he planned to peacefully protest and to be arrested tonight. That did happen. He was arrested. The mayor saying that she has been in contact with Washington's AG to see what they can find out about this detainment of these individuals and this situation right now. But again, here's where we stand. The curfew has been in effect for just about an hour ago. It's for that area of downtown Spokane from Boone and Howard to Division over to Riverfront Park. A violation of that curfew, as we just heard from city officials, is a misdemeanor right there for violating curfew. There are several exceptions to that. We are just about 7.5 hours into this entire ordeal. Our Connor McAvoy has been live at the scene all night tonight. He is down there at this hour. If we can get back to him, there he is. And Connor, I understand the number of folks still there has reduced significantly.
Yeah, that's right, Mark. The number has definitely gone down. We counted just before we started speaking to you here at about 35 people or so are still out here, still protesting, still making their voices heard. You can see right there 2 Spokane police here on Washington Street. Now, the amount of cars that were flashing their red and blue lights there has gone down pretty significantly just in the last, I want to say 20 or so minutes. But there are still quite a few people that are out here at the intersection of North River Drive and Washington Street. You can hear some of them right there yelling towards Spokane police officers. I want to point out, if we take a look up into the sky, there is quite a few different drones that have made their way to this area. We managed to count at about 4 or 5 different drones. You might be able to see one flashing bright light in the sky right there. There also is a helicopter that's been circling above this area for last several hours or so. We don't know exactly who they are, but they have been circling this area for the last several hours or so. You can see right up there. Again, we're at North River Drive and Washington Street right now for these protests that have gone on, like you said, Mark, about 7.5 hours or so. That curfew went into effect about an hour ago, but people are still out here. They are still protesting. They are still expressing their opposition towards Spokane police officers at this time. No word on how things are looking right now, but the crowds have gone down significantly. Like I said, we counted about 30 or so people that are still out here. It has gotten significantly quieter than it has just in the last hour or so, but there are still some people that are out that are making their voices heard towards Spokane police at this hour.
Great job down there. Hang tight
Mark,
if you can for us. Thank you, Connor. We understand right now we have Spokane County Sheriff John Knowles on the phone with us tonight. Sheriff Knowles, can you hear me?
I sure can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you for joining us. Hey, we know in this specific incident that Spokane Police is the lead agency on this, but you guys are also down there assisting them. Can you talk about that a bit?
I sure can. What do you want to know?
Well, I guess when were you called in, and how many of your officers, or deputies rather, are there helping out?
So we received communication from HSI shortly after SPD did. We started coordinating really kind of on an official level with the Spokane Police Department at about 4 o'clock when it became clear that the people were down there to not merely protest it, but to surround the building and prevent civilian employees, federal law enforcement employees, and detainees to prevent them from leaving the building. Really, it turned into a situation of unlawful imprisonment, which is a felony in the state of Washington.
Mm-hmm. We had heard from Police Chief Kevin Hall that, according to him, more than 30 people have been arrested. Have your deputies made any arrests that are separate from that you know of?
Well, I mean, I think the arrests were made by both SPD employees and Sheriff's Office employees. It was clearly a group effort. With a group that size and with the limited law enforcement resources we have in this region, there's not many instances of this size that you're going to get away with just one agency. So we have planned and trained to work together for these kind of incidences for years. And I think things went fairly well to plan, and I think the men and women of the police department, men and women of the sheriff's office did a fantastic job out there today. They were professional. They were courteous. They were as courteous as the protesters allowed them to be. And they did things just according to plan and to their training.
And Sheriff, can you talk about the challenges perhaps when you have a demonstration and you do have people that are demonstrating peacefully and you have others who maybe not be demonstrating peacefully, and the challenges that prevents when deciphering between the two?
Well, clearly this group, when they intentionally surrounded a building, started blocking the exits of that building, that's not a demonstration anymore. And people aren't there peacefully demonstrating. When they surrounded vehicles and they started slashing tires of both, rented vehicles and vehicles that belong to government agencies, that's not peaceful. That's not demonstrating. That's committing crimes. It's unlawful. I think as soon as that starts to happen, and as soon as these people start infringing on the rights of others and damaging property, it changes the game. And we've got to stop calling that a demonstration. I mean, this whole idea that we can say things are largely peaceful or that it's a demonstration, that's not what happened here.
Mm-hmm. I think some folks might push back on you a bit, Sheriff, and say there were a handful of people that were doing things that are illegal, but other people who were not. So they might push back on you a bit with that.
they can push back all they want. The fact of the matter is a lawful dispersal order was given, and dozens, if not hundreds of people failed to disperse. They did not obey a lawful directive.
Right. You're obviously, and we all are seeing kind of what's unfolding in cities like Los Angeles and other cities across the nation with anti-ICE protesters. Things are, for lack of a better term, kind of hot. There are a lot of people that are really divided on this issue. As the sheriff for Spokane County, how do you manage something like that? And how do you try to, I guess, for lack of a better term, keep the peace in situations or times like this?
Well, the reality of it is people have to make a conscientious choice to obey the law. People can exercise their First Amendment rights peacefully. It happens all the time. We have had many demonstrations and protests in this city lately and in years past where there were no unlawful acts. That was not what happened tonight, and that's not what's happening in LA. That's not what's happening in other cities. And the reality of it is we will enforce the law here.
Mm-hmm. Copy that. Sheriff John Knowles, I really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so much. And I guess if you can, in terms of what you're seeing or hearing about the situation, are things kind of wrapping up in terms of what you're hearing, or what do you know?
Yeah, I believe right now the crowds around that particular building and in these demonstrations or protests or, it wasn't a riot, but there was some other unlawful acts. But I believe the crowd is dissipating, and we are kind of seeing if we can start sending some of our people home and still maintain safety around the downtown area and the area of the curfew.
Sheriff John Knowles, really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if you're just joining us, we are continuing to cover this clash between law enforcement, Spokane Police, Spokane County Sheriff's deputies, and demonstrators that has been taking place really since 3 o'clock this afternoon and has been ongoing since then. From our crews on the ground, we understand that things are starting to dissipate in terms of numbers of demonstrators or protesters in downtown Spokane. We also know, we learned tonight from Spokane Police Chief Kevin Hall that over 30 arrests have been made tonight in association with this, mostly for misdemeanors, according to Kevin Hall. He said, I believe there may have been one felony arrest, although he said he wasn't exactly sure at this moment. So we'll get back to him and try to find out more about that. This was a large response from law enforcement, Spokane Police alone, saying they called in 180 officers for this. Spokane Police Chief Kevin Hall saying that they did not use tear gas. What we saw were smoke canisters or inert gas, is what he called it, in an effort to disperse people. He also said that pepper balls were fired by some of their officers. He said those pepper balls were not fired at officers, but near their feet in an attempt to disperse them. The curfew remains in effect tonight. We will continue to follow the situation and bring you more as it becomes available. In the meantime, good night.
Dang, dude, you just went for an hour and a half straight.
Are we off?